if I'm truly following Christ as love, and I am doing everything that Christ was doing for the body of Christ, then how I see you is I serve you. This is the most important part. And in turn, you serve me. That's the mutual submission. But how it plays out is I love you and you respect me. You know, that's how I kind of see things, you know. That kind of answered their question a little bit. Someone asked another question. Oh, wait, David asked one. I'm going to come to David's question after. It said, why is submission from women important to men?
Shall I go?
Go for it, bro. Yeah, from rules.
It's how we feel loved, just like bro coach just said. It's how we receive. You ask a man, does my missus love me? He'll probably say yes, but does she respect me? He may hesitate, because that's what speaks to him. If any man who feels respected is gonna fly. I've got a few friends, right, who are married, and one of the reasons that he said to me, in fact, I'll even say it all straight. He even said to me that the sex with his ex is so much better, but he said he doesn't care because she gives him something that he's never got before. I want to ask him, okay, what is it, bro? He said respect. He said the way I feel and all the things I want to do for her, don't get me wrong, the marriage is not perfect. We go through ups and downs, but there is no one else that I'd rather go through these challenges with, because no matter what we go through, she respects me. I said, wow. This is what it means to a man to be respected, to feel respected. The same way it feels to a man to be respected amongst his peers, to be respected by his children. It really speaks to us in a way that, again, it's not that women don't want to be respected. Of course, we shall respect each other. But men don't really complain about not being loved. We complain about not being respected. Yes, women do talk about respect, but the greatest issue that we have is women not feeling loved. And that's the difference. Because we'll come to David's question in a second, but this is kind of what leads on to the fact that we're not the same. We are clearly not the same. We wasn't built the same. We wasn't built to tackle the same things. We was built differently, and therefore we need to be catered towards differently, which is why the same thing can affect us differently. The world is such a mess today because we're all just busy trying to be the same, fighting each other, what I want, and all that is nonsense. When we start actually catering towards each other and not this versus mentality, then we'll understand how relationships become better. But we have to do the work in ourselves. But go on, bro.
Yeah, no, you hit on it, to be honest. I think personally why submission is important from women to men, and I'll talk about this from, I would say, good men. Why it's important is because I don't have the time to explain every single thing. You know, I'm going to go there. I'm going to be wild today, but, you know, no, because I don't have the time to explain every single thing in fullest detail. And sometimes there is impending danger, which is not physical. I'm not talking about someone rushing towards you to fight. I'm not talking about that. That's, you know, we're not in that day and age anymore, right? Where we normally have physical impending danger. But even that so, right? It's the reason why is because of the way that we interpret the roles that we play, right? I've said this before. When you're at work, nobody wants to deal with a difficult employee. Nobody does. I'm sorry, nobody does. You don't want to deal with a difficult colleague. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And one of the ways to be a great employee is the one that's not moaning all the time, that's not complaining all the time, that's not trying to fight you on every decision, that's not saying I don't want to have to do this if I don't have to do this. The greatest employees are the ones that say, "Joe, I heard you." Maybe they might even offer pushback. I don't know if this works, but let's try it and see. But I think there may be another way of doing it, or offering something in a respectful manner that says, "Actually, I don't necessarily agree. How does this work?" Right? So it's a respect that comes from that employee. Now, if anyone's been at work, y'all know you've been with some people that you've seen them, you're looking at them like, these people, this is wild. Like, just seeing how they behave, like, you know. And so when you, and I'm taking it as an example, because we're not saying that a woman is an employee of a man. What I'm trying to describe specifically before anyone says it, is that it's about the aspect of what you were talking about, the psychology of it, right? If you are a boss at work, if anybody's ladies, I know ladies are boss at work here now, which is even beautiful, brilliant. We can actually give us an example. Those of you who are bosses at work, managers at work, line managers, some of you are even employees, whichever one. Do you want to deal with a difficult manager or a difficult employee? That's the question I'm asking. If you never want to deal, if you don't want to deal with somebody, and you know what kind of difficult I'm talking about, you know the one that always has a smart comment, the one that says I don't want to do this, the one that don't do the work efficiently, the one that doesn't pull their weight. When you talk about difficult employees, nobody wants to deal with that person, right? And if you're a manager or a line manager, when you have people underneath you, that person who's annoying just stops the flow of work, and then they put you in a bad mood, and then it's like you get into unnecessary fights. And the reason being in this aspect is because we all want to have a smooth process when it comes to having to work together. And so from a man's perspective, if my job is to lead and to protect, and that comes in different formats, by the way, when we say protect, and to provide and all that stuff, then I don't want to have to be going back and forth in a particular way that's going to cause tension within the relationship.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So it's not saying that it doesn't mean that don't push me back. You know, it doesn't mean you know, that you can't disagree. It doesn't mean that we're not going to butt heads. What it means is, will you do it in a respectful manner? You guys have followed me on the channel long enough. When people come into the space and certain men speak in a certain tone, you want me to get rid of them. Why? Right? See, no, we don't make excuses for those type of men, right? When those men come into a space like this and they start talking reckless, y'all be like, get rid of him, get rid of him. Why? Because he disrupts the flow. It's no longer a safe space. You're not making it easy to be able to get along with. And I get that, right? So in a relationship, the same thing. And I'm talking this from two formats, because the question is specifically for the woman submitting to a man. I don't want to have to deal with a difficult person. This is biblical. It's not even just me. Bible even tells the contentious woman, it's better for you to be in the corner of the house. So it's about finding a respectful manner in how to challenge. Just like you don't just roll up into your boss's door, bang the door and say, hey, I disagree with everything you just said a minute ago. You have a respectful way of dealing with things. Same thing in a relationship. There has to be a respectful way of dealing with it when it comes to your man. This is not saying that, again, that you are an employee in your relationship. What it's saying is there's a respectful way of doing this. And you know it, because when you go to work, you don't just talk recklessly to your boss. You don't talk recklessly to the manager. You don't talk recklessly to the CEO. When you disagree, you approach it in a particular way because you want to be respectful and you're mindful. So the same way it comes in a relationship, it's the same way. So we're saying that it's important for us because again, it shows that you're not trying to disrespect me and you're not trying to hurt me. You know what I mean? And that's also our interpretation of love. But of course, if you're doing all of this good stuff that we're talking about for the wrong man, yeah, it ain't gonna work. So let's not conflate the wrong man with a good man, because some of you have done what I've said, but you've done it to the wrong man who's taken advantage of you. That ain't the man you need to be doing it for. And that's where accountability comes in for each party. Just saying, you know what I mean? But I don't know if you want to add, bro.
Well, you said it beautifully, and someone mentioned, and I understand this because a lot of women have this issue where that